Wakey, wakey. Good morning and many thanks indeed for joining us here on KTN News Morning Prime to give you a good cheering start early in the morning. I trust you've slept easy and you're waking up to a very chilling, nappingly cold morning, drizzling outside as it is, 13 degrees centigrade. I'm telling you, you have to keep yourself layered up and warmed today, because this is bound to be, of course, going on throughout morning, maybe also a better part of the afternoon. It is Friday, the 7th of July, 2023. And of course, the Saba Day is here. Everyone now has trepidation regarding the protest today by Azimio that they have said will be countrywide. We, of course, be following what will be developing as far as this protest are concerned. And we'll be giving you blow-by-blow account, wire to wire, of course, following what will be the pronouncements and how they will be. In Mombasa, the civil society have been given the thumbs up by the police to carry on with a peaceful protest today. So that will be taking a good stock of the day today. But also remember, today is Kiswahili kitukuzwe kani lugha ya taifa. Right, if you grew up on that particular shairi juice, you know what I'm talking about. It is World Kiswahili Language Day. And of course, everyone is celebrating Swahili. So how are you faring on with your Swahili so far? Right, is it getting better since you left school? Mine is a bit rackety. I need to just be trying to also up the ante as far as my Swahili is concerned. But it was very good, I must tell you, when I was in high school. But since then, it has really gone down the tubes. But we're celebrating our language that the United Nations also has honored it. And given today, the 7th of July, every year we celebrate World Kiswahili Language Day. And of course, I'll be also hearing from our panelists. I'll try and give our teas out so that I can see how also their Swahili is faring on. So we have a lot lined up for you today. A story that also will be highlighting regarding the Brown Cheese, I should say, organization, that they had a woman or women stripped to the bath because the management wanted to find out who disposed a sanitary towel. Now, this is deplorable. And we need to respect our women. Regardless of what they do, they should be respected honorably. And of course, we also should roundly condemn what Brown Cheese has done. Questions are being raised, and of course, this should be taken to the logical extent on how dehumanizing, reductive, and deplorable that scene was. Did they supply the necessary facilities where the woman, all the women involved and the ladies in that particular office will have disposed the sanitary towels? And why would you strip someone's wife, someone's sister, someone's mother to the bath because you want to denigrate them or send a message? I think that was deplorable, and various organizations like FIDA should pick up the issue and doggedly follow it to its logical extent, and the management should be castigated for this. We need to respect our mothers, we need to respect our daughters, we need to respect our wives. And that is a clarion call that, of course, we shall be putting on the table with our panelists, because it is Uongozi Today. And we always focus on issues to do with keeping our leaders accountable. It is not just the political side, but it is also on the corporate side as well. It's not about the profits. It's not about the bottom line. Now the world has changed. It is how you're treating your personnel. We call it a people, planet, a profit. That is a triple P that every organization should focus. And your human resource is a key pivotal center of your success. If you treat them dehumanizingly, if you treat them unfairly, if you treat them without respect, that will be a reflection to your organization. And of course, people of Brown Cheese and the customers as well should take cognizance of what has happened as well, and they should suffer for it, because we are here to watch out for the citizen and how they're being treated as well. Here on Uongozi Today, we center on that as well. So we shall be looking at that as well. We have also the Law Society of Kenya that is imploring the Senate that the country should set up a commission or an authority to try and look after the churches, as it were, akin to Inter-Religious Council of Kenya. And that has been put on the table, and you know the debate about shakeup and the regulation of the church. We shall be looking at that as well. But let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. Already in studio with me, who has, of course, woken up early and defying the cold weather, is Kipruto Arab Kirwa. We'll be joined by also Dr. Martin Elo, Dr. Isaac Kalur as well, and Churchill Suba much later in the course of the program. But what is fresh off the press today? Let's see what the whole is on the front page of the Standard today. Is it all about the CBC and how we've been trying to shake up that particular curricula into place? Remember, there was a task force that presented a report to the president, but he was not really satisfied with the findings of the report, and that's why now he took them back with the report. Now there is a revelation, and this is a Standard breaking it out for you this morning regarding the radical CBC shakeup. Ruto's radical CBC shakeup is the splash this morning. Exclusive. New education reforms proposal seen by the Standard reveal drastic changes, including on competency-based curriculum, and we'll see a return of national exams, sky-high cost of implementing system, and scrapping of the national schools, even as Teacher Service Commission's powers are eroded, with the ministry assuming quality assurance function. This is on page 6, 7, 8, and 9 of the Standard this morning. Categorization of schools and of national extra county, and sub-county category of schools to be classified based on their pathways. That is the STEM, social sciences and sports. Also subject reduction, fewer subjects for learners from 8 to 7 in lower primary, also from 10 to 8 in upper primary, from 12 to 9 in junior secondary, only 7 subjects in senior secondary. A new funding model as well has been laid out, capitation reviewed, and a flat rate per student introduced for all schools regardless of the population. Pre-primary, we have 1,170 shillings, that is per student. Also, we have primary 2,237. Junior secondary school 15,544. Senior secondary 19,628. Special needs 18,000. And we have also on teachers, all teachers to undergo mandatory retraining on CBC, and Teachers Service Commission to oversee remuneration of pre-primary teachers, previously done by county government. And quality assurance, TSC is tipped off quality assurance mandate, responsible officers to be moved to Ministry of Education. Also 70% senior secondary, that is 70% of final score from final exam, and 30% from school-based assessment, 60% junior secondary from final exams, and 60% and 40%, I should say, from school-based assessment. This is what the president said, speaking on education reforms in January. Just to remind you that the transition of CBC is a big plus, and there could have been some missteps in the process. Maybe we could have taken an extra year or two to ensure we get teachers and other stakeholders on board. But now, that is water under the bridge. And since then, we've seen the task force really under the gun to try and bring these particular reforms and the report to the president. And these are the latest revelations. You can grab a copy of the Standard this morning to get all the wiser as far as the curricula is concerned and how it's going to affect you as a parent moving forward. Also inside today's Azimio Saba protest, that is what we have spread on page 4 of the Standard today. For the young and young at heart, TikTok after dark. You want to read all that happens on TikTok after dark, where people now, they are seeking for money as they display their curvatures. And that is happening on social media. What to do? We have to take the rough with the smooth that really comes with social media at the end of the day. All stars cast at Nyayo in race for Budapest tickets. You can read all about that on page 42, 43, and 44 of the Standard this morning. This is how it looks. Make sure you grab a copy of the bold paper. Politics of betrayal is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation. And today being Saba, that really tells why we have these headlines. Mantra, we have no eternal allies and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual. That is what the flag is reading on top here. And second nature, Kenya's political script is replete with scenes of deceit and betrayal, with many a politician often breaking agreements and throwing their close allies under the bus to protect their own interest, from our founding fathers to the current crop of leaders. Playing dirty and nasty is the nature of the game. And you have the story on page 4 and 5 of today's Daily Nation, hacking back from 1966 to 2022, when we had the last general election. Vice President Jaramogi Oginga Odinga resigned after falling out with President Jomo Kenyatta. President Uhuru Kenyatta turned on his deputy, William Ruto, and backed Azimio's Raila Odinga. And some of the faces as well that have been betrayed and have betrayed are all splashed up. They're splashed here on the front page of the Daily Nation there. We have, in the youthful days, or you can see Jaramogi Oginga Odinga there, Kalonzo Musyoka with a youthful face there, with Moses Wetangula, Martin Shikuku, Masinde Muliro. We have also Martha Karua, Kijana Wamalwa, Raila Odinga, Anne Waiguru, Sabina Chege, who are the latest crop of politicians right now. Also Moses Kuria, Professor George Saitoti the late, Justin Muturi, Musalia Mudavadi, Kanini Kega, and Charity Ngilu. And how also the political chess game has been played. Who are the pawns and who are the kings, and the checkmates in between. That is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation. And we reflect back as well, looking at how pivotal the civil society has been on this big day. And this is when we moved the needle a jot as far as multi-party democracy is concerned, and the agitation of it, more Kenya and all, where we had also people being arraigned and locked up, not even arraigned actually, but being locked up in jail without any justification or any court ruling afterwards. Osindo was killed at home, then dumped in river. This is what detectives are saying, and you can follow the story on page 10 of the Daily Nation today. Kenya Comoros to lift visa rule. That is what we have as the latest so far, with the president darkening that particular country, darkening their doors. President William Ruto with his Comoros counterpart Azali Asumani at Independence Square in Moroni yesterday during the Indian Ocean Islands 48th independence celebrations. Having a light moment there. You can read all the details inside Daily Nation on page 14. Well, let's just highlight what also the Deputy President is saying. We will implement T laws from next week. We're waiting to see. And language of love. Popular songs in Swahili through the years. Well, we have Churchill Suba. He will give us a song that he can remember in Swahili. Also, we have Kipruto Arap Kiro as well, going back to Zilizopendwa. And also, we have a choir master with us as well. This is Dr. Isaac Kalua Green, who will tell us more about his Zilizopendwa days. Now that he's a champion of the Green Deal, he'll give us the details of that as well. This is a Daily Nation for you, and just to remind you as well, today is World Kiswahili Language Day. That's why we're talking about Zilizopendwa and Kiswahili as well, if you may remember that particular shairi that I sang when we just started the show. Let's look at what we have on the front page of the Star. Spotlight on size of Ruto executive after CS verdict is a splash. Bloated. Some lawyers say Musalia's job, 51 PS, is not contemplated in the law. We shall look at that as well. Musalia's, and then now we have Ruto's government that has moved to seek to install the CS's job, and also to make sure that the position of the public or the executive wants actually to be the chair of the Public Service Commission. This is the latest development. So what does that really portend, especially with coming up with these new offices that are not really contemplated in the Constitution, but we want to seek other avenues through the Parliamentary Act to install these offices? Is this abuse also of that avenue of the Act as well? And why would the President want to be the executive chair of the Public Service Commission? It should be an independent commission, right? Or the Public Service, not really commission, but the Public Service. Let me just also get my terms right. Also, we have Siasa Fiesta This is a Siasa pull-out magazine. Why Kenya Kwanza foray into Luoland is a scheme doomed to fail miserably. Read all about that inside the Siasa public debt puzzle as well is the splash. This acts as a segue to usher in your weekend in the Star. I was tortured by cops. Warehouse owner tells MPs, and Raila plots CBD match during Saba Saba rally. We'll see how that will pan out. This is the 33rd anniversary of Saba Saba, and also Churchill Suba will tell us more on how he fared with the government and Saba Saba. Higher pay for civil servants to cost 3.8 billion shillings. Right, you know, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission was at it again. And I can just give you at a glance what this really means for you and for the civil servants. That is the amount government will spend to pay civil servants per month after salary reviews, 3.84 billion shillings. Now, 846,720 was the highest paid civil servant at principal secretary level. Will earn if SRC plan is implemented. And 17.8 billion shillings amount that teachers will earn collectively every month in new structure, the biggest portion of a particular budget, and 584,740. This is a proposed pay for job group T, administrative secretaries, regional commissioners, etc., etc. Also, we have 216,499 minimum directors, county commissioners, and others in job group S. That is what they are going to take home, 218,450. This is the lowest proposed pay for job group R. This is the senior deputy directors and deputy directors. And in 2025, that is the year when proposal for the third cycle will be completed after starting in 2021. And that's how it's going to affect the taxpayer relief for government workers, teachers to be biggest winners if proposals by salaries team are adopted. New pay could take effect this month, cushioning staff from high cost of living. And we've seen also members of parliament having raising also their hesitation regarding these salary hikes, especially them, and saying the civil servants should be given preeminence in this consideration. And here we are right now. This is a figure that is bound to be also affecting the budget. Police kills 20 Al-Shabaab in shootout. This is an eye-popping figure, and that is a salutary good effort from our security officers with the menace of Al-Shabaab rising its ugly head again. I'll get an E, but we'll still sit for exam. This is what an MCA is saying. He already knows his scorecard. That will be E, but he wants to complete. He goes through the whole gamut of education regardless. It's not about the results. It's about the process, he says, maybe. You can read all about that in the People Daily. That's the spirit, right? That's the spirit. Regardless of what grade an MCA is here, he knows that if he sits for the MCA, for the Form 4 exam, he'll get an E. But he'll go full steam ahead and sit. So it's not about the result, it's about the process. Yeah. Or he'll not be sitting in class, he'll just show up for the exam. And he had no certain idea what, but he knows I'll get an E.
Yeah, but you know, Dibal, what is interesting is that we seem to give qualifications for the sake of it. Remember, the Constitution is supposed to provide that certain academic qualification should be provided for those who are running for governor, deputy governor, president, and deputy.
Yes.
But it has been watered down by the by the legal process in such a way that you do not have to have university education for you to be a governor of a county. And the wisdom that the framers of the Constitution had at the beginning of time was you must also have capacity to interrogate issues, not necessarily to be trained in administration, but the capacity to interrogate issues. So it's a question of MCAs are not an exception. It's all of us who have just lowered our standards. And if I was to write a book today, I'll write a book headline, The Falling Standards.
The Falling Standards.
Yeah, the falling standards in Kenya. We seem to have been doing everything against the grain. And that has become our national culture.
Right. For the E-graders, I remember one time we had a community called the E-graders. They said, you know, we are students who've scored E, but we don't want to be segregated in this society. we should be given a voice. We are the E-graders. I don't know what really happened to the E-graders. They used to really seek out an interview just to come and speak about the E-graders. But I thought maybe that would be glorifying the E-graders. But at the same time, what is the dilemma if you've really gotten an E? And in a cutthroat competitive society like Kenya, where you're not really accommodated, is that a doomsday for you? And what does the curricula say regarding this particular, even for the CBC, people who are not really academically gifted, so to speak, but they have other areas where their giftings can flourish, not necessarily through books, but artistically, in sports as well.
You know, we have framed our education system in a way that it is about competition, and it has acquired also a culture in our society that if I don't aspire to, I don't get certain grade, I belong to another class of individuals who should talk less when others are engaging in serious discourse. While education essentially is supposed to get the best out of every child. That's why we always, those of us who are trained in teaching, we always believe that there is no stupid child. There are fast learners, slow learners, and those who are sort of in between. And therefore, the role of a teacher should seek to accommodate all the learners, such that at the end of the day, each learner must get the best out of him, because there is no stupid child, indeed, as far as we are concerned. But we have allowed that to pervade our atmosphere and made it look like if you don't get an A in a certain categorization, then you are a failure. Indeed. Yeah. That's a challenge that we have as a nation.
Let's just hear from Dr. Green, because we have also the CBC. As you can see, the headlining story of the front page of the Standard is all about the new curricula and the revelations. It seems also some good eye-popping figure has been dedicated to sports with the new curricula. So the way they've actually divided it is we'll have, STEM based classes. This is the pathway. You're talking about the science, the technical, engineering, mathematics, social sciences as well, and sports. They have maybe also given avenues to whom we are talking about, because many people also will want to be particularly concerned about the talent as opposed to academia, maybe the cognitive. Okay, that's part of cognitive development, but I'm talking about maybe the exams-oriented curriculum that we've been talking about, but we have to also to center on the talent. So everyone has been catered for, even for the E-graders.
Before I respond to this is a very special day, Saba.
Yes.
And unless God comes for us,
we will discuss about Saba as a dedicated subject, of course.
We cannot progress. And that is why I want to request that we say a prayer, even as we continue.
We say a prayer even as we continue.
A short prayer.
A short prayer.
Yes.
For today.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Yes, Pastor Doctor.
Thank you.
Isaac Kalogre.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for your mercies that are new every day. We are sinners before you and we ask for forgiveness. We come before you as a nation at a time like this and pray for peace. Pray for your understanding. Hold us by your righteous right hand. Help our leaders to make decisions that are going to be impactful to every Kenyan who is here today. Bless us, O God, and favor us with everything, that it is not about us, but about you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
So,
I feel refreshed.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you've just prayed and Martin has shown up. This is the power of prayer. Martin Olo has been prayed for. He's just popped in. He's just...
and you know he's part of the evangelicals.
He's part of the evangelicals.
Yes.
He's a deacon.
He's a deacon.
Good. Yes.
A lot has been talked about education in this country. And I want to appreciate the fact that we have top experts in our country. Top. people who care about this country, people who are well educated, people who have consulted, people who have seen examples of what is happening in other countries and would like to implement the best for us. And I cannot turn out to be an expert in this space.
Yes.
I can only say that let us leave such issues to proper consultation so that there is importance of bringing up children in the best way possible, especially at their early childhood, and be able to run in education in the best way that favors them. In this country, we have everything right, save for politics. And it is the only thing that comes to mess up what professionals have done in the best way possible. So I suggest that we give it a look in what is happening. Let us listen to the professionals, what is best for us.
Yes.
Let us ensure every child, every parent wants their child to be successful. Everyone wants to see that their life is better out of a process that is so helpful. So we just need to give through the professionals what they believe is best, but not turning around just because there is hue and cry.
Yes.
There is a change that is definitely expected, but it should happen at the right time, in the right way, knowing that we are dealing with children. Our children is all that we would want to be left behind of us, and we want them to have the best that they can have in this process.
Indeed.
So let us allow a professional process to take place. Let every step that is being taken be informed by what Kenyans want, not a few people. And I think that will help us to get Kenya in a better
Indeed,
place.
indeed. And of course, maybe just to set that particular story into context, let's just get a broader understanding where a raft of radical changes in the implementation of the competence-based curriculum will see a reduction in the number of subjects taught in school and more emphasis placed on final examinations in junior and senior secondary schools. The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms is proposing that at the end of junior secondary, the learners will sit a final assessment similar to the KCPE, and which will make up 60% of the final score, while the remaining 40% will be sourced from assessments conducted at the end of grade 7 and grade 8. Let's just hear from Shadrach Miti to give us just perspective into this, and then we shall break it down with our panelists. What does it portend? Are we hacking back now to the cutthroat competition that we had with the final exams?
The changes are part of a draft report by the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, which is still being refined and fine-tuned before it is handed over to the President and subsequently officially made public. Under the proposed reforms, there will be changes in testing learners, with grade 6 learners sitting the Kenya Primary Schools Education Assessment KPSEA solely for monitoring their progress. However, the assessment will not in any way inform their transition to the next level, as the progress to junior secondary will be automatic. And there could be a complete shift in the management and assessment of exams, with the Kenya National Examination Council set to be renamed the Kenya National Assessment Council, which will administer all the final exams and assessments. At the end of junior secondary, the learners will sit a final assessment similar to the KCPE under 844, but will only make up to 60% of their final score. The remaining 40% will be from assessment conducted at the end of grade 7 and 8. The summative result will give the learners their final score and will be important in informing which senior secondary school they will join. This will be another deviation from the previous arrangement, which had recommended that the final assessment carries only 40% of the final mark, as the remaining 60% fetched from the classroom assessment. At grade 12, which is the end of senior secondary school, the learners will also take a summative examination similar to KCSE that will carry 70% of their final mark. The remaining 30% will be from the school-based assessment and competencies they will have shown throughout their education journey. The change marks a major shift from the initial design of the CBC that envisioned an end to high-stakes examinations. Sources have informed us that the changes in the structure and arrangement of assessment were informed by the concerns raised over the integrity of school-based assessment, following fears of compromised scores uploaded by the teachers to the Kenyan National Examination Council portal. The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms also proposes a significant reduction in the number of subjects to be taught in primary and secondary schools. Initially, learners in grades 1 to 3 were required to take up to 8 subjects, with those in upper primary taking 10 compulsory subjects. Junior secondary had 12 compulsory subjects. The team is proposing 5 subjects in pre-primary, 7 subjects for grade 1 to grade 3, and 8 subjects for grade 4 to grade 6. Meanwhile, those in junior secondary will have to take not more than 9 subjects, while senior secondary learners will take 7 subjects, depending on the pathway of their choices. At the same time, the Ministry of Education will be required to establish a comprehensive school system that will see the management of pre-primary, primary, and junior secondary school rolled into one institution with a single head teacher assisted by 2 deputies. Shadrach Miti, KTN News.
Right, much broader understanding that we were given there by Shadrach Miti regarding the CBC. And of course, you have the whole revelation here spread out for you inside the Standard this morning on page 6, 7, 8, and 9 of today's publication. And we have a panelist, just as we started with Kipruto Arap Kirwa and also Dr. Isaac Kalua Green. We want to hear from Churchill Suba on this. This is the second time now that the Presidential Working Party has worked on this CBC, which is diametrically different from what they had presented to the president. We were not really privy to what was there, but it seems the president was not really satisfied with the first report, and now here we are. What is highlighted for you that will be maybe of a silent issue that you take special umbrage, as I normally say, or the ones you think this is a good way to go as far as this curricula is concerned?
Thank you. Thanks, Dibal. I think when the CBC was introduced, what made it fundamentally different from the 844 were mainly 2 things. One was the need to scale down on the workload on students, because under the 844 system, initially it started with, I think, around 12. Then it got reduced to, I think, around 8. And a number of subjects that are based on equipping learners with ethical values were made optional. And in a country where, everything is done to pass exams, and to gear us towards white-collar jobs, it was realized that the scaling down that was done under the 844 system did not take into account the need to equip, first of all, to identify the various skill sets that people are born with, and to sharpen those skills and create an opportunity for learners at a tender age to sharpen those skills. Now, what we are seeing in the ongoing reforms in CBC risk also falling into the same trap that the 844 system suffered. Because if we focus much on national exams,
yes,
which has been the epicenter of competition with all manner of dirty tricks that the learners themselves, the schools, deploy to excel and shine, and be on the front pages of the papers, then the whole substance and import of the CBC is lost. I'm a bit concerned that the weight given to the final exams,
yes,
70%, is too high, and will again, undermine the original intention of the CBC. I think it is not just for the president alone to decide what is good for Kenyans. I think that all Kenyans, including the various stakeholders that made submissions to the task force, ought to validate. There should be some validation where, you know, we are all able to say this is what is good. Of course, the president, as head of state, has access to advice, technical advice that we are not privy to, but I think the public ought, you know, to be involved at every stage of the way, so that we avoid a scenario where, you know, our children, you know, are once again used as guinea pigs to experiment on things that politicians think is good for the country, yet the country has its own vision of where it wants to go.
But one will argue that public participation was given its a handy opportunity to weigh in on the CBC.
I mean, we have seen it in the finance bill, where, you know, an overwhelming majority of Kenyans were opposed to the finance bill. Where did their views go? It was, you know, a formality. So when public participation does not influence, you know, public policy, then it ceases to be public participation. We should not be taken through the garden path and you know, made to, you know, make our contributions, do a lot of research, only for all those views to be ignored, as was the case with the finance bill. And so what we are seeing here is as a repeat of what we have been taken through in the finance bill, where, you know, views that were expressed by the public based on practical realities of life may have been ignored at the expense of, you know, people who want to, you know, take credit at a political level for the final product that, you know, the children and future generations of this country will be subjected to.
All right. Let's hear from Dr. Martin Olo. He's also an academician, head of department School of Law, that is public law at Leicester University. So when all this is heading your way in terms of preparation, and so the process that we're talking about, in fact, we're looking at the People Daily, and there is an MCA who says, I'll sit for the KCSE exam. I know I'll get an E, but I'll sit for it nonetheless, right? So what we're saying is not about the grade, it's about the process. But the process and the grade is very important as well. So these are the people that you're going to meet finally in the universities. But how prepared are the universities, even in the curriculum, that it can be that we're having all these reforms, then the pain points will be the bottleneck of entering the university, where we find still a very archaic curricula. I think in yesterday's Business Daily, we where Dr. Bitange Ndemo was talking about our curricula, that the problem with the history is that we can teach history in the universities. History, as we know, it changes, but the history in the university never changes. It remains the same, the curricula itself.
What you're saying, first of all, thank you for having me, and it was good that I got when the good bishop was praying, and that was very good. I know that my friend Mheshimiwa made a comment about evangelicals, but I'll not go there. I want to, and I don't deny. I want to go back to where my friend Suba Churchill was. And again, it is the challenge that this constitution that he and team say they gave us. And this challenge is that when you say public participation, to what extent is it binding? And then also, when you say public participation, and then you say that the president, the members of parliament, are exercising delegated authority, to what extent would you say that they are not acting on our behalf as citizens? So because we've designed it, we've said we've delegated to them, it means that some decisions we have to take, they have to take on our behalf. Now the challenge, of course, is that the task force went around listening to public views. And they have summarized those public views in such a manner that they have presented their recommendations. Now, should their recommendation again go to the public again for participation? Maybe not, because then they were appointed by the president, who is delegated, has delegated authority from us. He has received the report. We expect that he implements. There must be an end, as we say, to litigation. There must be an end to a process. So at some point, the process of public participation and consultation has to end. Decisions have to be made and have to be implemented. But that said, I think that we are tinkering, or we are, meddling around with our children's education for very unexplained reasons. There is absolutely nothing wrong with CBC as designed today. Maybe what we should be looking at is what are the workloads, what is our preparedness, and how do we implement it. But because we come in and politicize the process. We are having these recommendations. They are coming in as if they are big recommendations, but perhaps what they are saying is synchronize it, reduce workloads, create infrastructure and resources that are necessary to support it, but give it a balance. So whatever the case, and since I have not even read the full report, whatever the case, what we should be saying is, how are we looking at our children's future? How are we looking at this nation? And where are we going with it? Talking about curriculum and talking about what's happening, the world is moving to what is referred to as problem-based learning. Now, problem-based learning recognizes both vertical and horizontal developments in a human being and in relationships, so that it's not just how you grow upwards, but how you also grow functionally. So yes, this issue of getting an E and passing is not a bad idea, because who says an A is what makes you a successful person, and who says an E makes you less successful? There is a place for functional knowledge and education. Today, when you look at somebody like Oscar Sudi, that he never went past class 7 and never did an exam, is really not depicting what he is capable of doing. Look at what he has been able to do. Look at how far he has gone. So there must be some basic knowledge that he has and some basic functionality that he has that has taken him to where he is. This country has been treated to fairly dramatic people. Not great in education, but not lacking in human skills, like Molo Mutisia, like Kariuki Chotara. You know, they straddled this society. People like Bargatuny, with a little education. I mean, Daniel Arap Moi, he was not your degree holder, but practically he was a very good leader. Yes. I mean, whatever you want to say, he was able to hold this country for 24 years. He was able to work with professionals like Mheshimiwa Kirwa here, and even my good friend, former Vice Chancellor, Professor Mbivi, and people like Liki. I mean, he was able to hold his ground with professionals, so to speak. So I think that there is room for us to continue having a conversation. I will be against radical or abrupt changes to the education curricula, and generally even to how we manage education. But is there a need for reforms in education? Certainly there are needs for reforms. There is need for us to look at, again, I go back to Suba Churchill, the Teacher Service Commission that they envisaged in the Constitution and eventually in the legislation is in itself a problem, because you can't have the Ministry of Education running schools and they have no control on who teaches in those schools and who heads those schools. You can't have a Ministry of Education that gives resources to the ministry, and the principal or the head of that school is not accountable to the ministry and is accountable to the TSC. You can't have a situation where you are running schools, they are under the ministry, but the quality control is the TSC, and that there's no linkage between TSC and the ministry. So
that has been hyped off from TSC right now.
That's why I'm saying that change is necessary.
It's necessary. It goes back to now the Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
Dr. Green.
Allow me to mention 3 things. First is what my colleagues have talked about. The consultation that was done across the country on CBC and matters of education must be upheld. The recommendation must be taken up and must be employed in the best way possible. There is no shortcut. Second thing, in the job market, it's becoming very painful sometimes that after very serious interviews, the quality of employees, the quality of the people who have qualified, even with very good documents in front of you, the delivery is totally different. You find that degree holders are and have passed and they have everything else, but the skills to do the job and the way, there is a misnomer, definitely. And this needs to be checked. And I believe, with my third point on this and comments, the thing about teachers, we don't respect our teachers in this country. And we need to do much, much more to respect them. How do we respect them? It's to giving them the load that they can manage. You cannot be able to have a teacher with 100 students in a class and expect the results to be the same, because we all have different capacities in learning, and it must be balanced in a way that is going to help that specific student. And therefore, a recommendation like what the TSC, Madam Nancy Macharia, has said, it's supposed to be given all the effort. We must get all the money. They have a strategic plan that they have done up to 2027 that leads this country in a manner that is so progressive in educating our students. I suggest that they be supported, and that because every teacher is the one that is going to shape the quality of our students and people in our country in the best way possible, to help people to achieve their visions. And I think those three things, the consultation process, the issue of job quality, people who are qualifying at the moment, and getting teachers in place to be able, and we respect our teachers. Let us even have a community that understands and that is able to give the teachers what they require from the grassroots level.
And
I think
good,
these are the three
good,
things
yes,
that we need to deal with.
It's a good thing that you raise regarding our university degrees. We can see also 15,000 students have failed to apply for university placement as it stands. But the Federation of Kenya Employees employers raised concern regarding the quality and the caliber of the graduates that we have from our universities, Dr. Martin Olo, that they are half-baked, and this is costly to the employers. If I may also just give this to Kipruto Arap Kirwa, that once they are getting into internship, there's a need to retrain them. That is becoming a very huge cost, having a cost implication to the employers, that they are half-baked. They cannot. They don't have the requisite. They don't even have the requisite skills. They cannot even write any formal business letter that makes any lick of sense. Should we worry?
You know, Dibal, is a question of our society. Everything that we do in Kenya, or in any country for that matter, is a reflection of the social dynamics of that nation. Therefore, the philosophical foundation of education in Kenya is wanting, in the sense that there is excessive bad manners in our society.
Philosophical foundation.
Yeah, philosophical foundation. And therefore, because, you know, for those people who are engaged in organizational dynamics, they know that the culture of an organization is shaped by a number of factors. One is the leadership pronouncement, and the leadership character makes the character of that particular society or organization. And therefore, as I said at the beginning, if I was to write a book today, it would be headline Falling Standards, because we seem to defy the norm and we want to do things the opposite way. It was convenient to go against the grain and therefore create a society of people who are haters for the establishment. Because perhaps we hated Uhuru, we hated dynasty, and anything that portends. This therefore means that we've allowed ourselves as a nation to be changing education just for the sake of it. We've experimented, we've had the Ominde report, the Kashadi report, the Mackay report, and many other reports. For those who are well versed with issues of history of education in Kenya, there are various reports. What are we learning out of all this? We seem to be failing to realize that how we behave in our society is a reflection that our children copy from us. Why are we saying that students from various universities may not be meeting the standards? It may not be entirely true. I interact with some of these young people because I went back to school the way you know, and I interact with them. Many of them are very intelligent. It's only that you must be, if you don't know something, and Nyerere put it very well, that in Kiswahili, ujinga si shida, pumbafu ndio shida. If you don't know something, unless you are taken through to know, to learn, you will not know it, including issues of letter writing. We learned letter writing in primary. And by the time you're in secondary school, you could write a letter. Do we still allow our children to learn some of these basics when they're in high school, when they're in the university? Or do we just take them through a narrow path that you must pass the exam? So that they spend a lot of time passing the exam by reading past papers, trying to regurgitate the answers from past papers through group discussion, and therefore at the end of it they pass and their cognitive capacity is there, but you have not shaped the child. So to have a blanket statement that our children are half-baked is a statement of our own failure.
No, not our children, our graduates.
Yeah, our graduates.
That is a report.
Yeah, of course, because many of these graduates are my children or grandchildren, because I have one at the university now, a grandchild. I'm just trying to tell Martin that I'm an old man.
Yeah, and I'm listening very keenly.
And before we lose it,
So, my worry is when we are talking about CBC, we are talking about all this. What is the content and what is the nature? You see, are you giving a child enough content relevant to the need for that particular space? Are we giving the right content, or are we giving such a large volume that you will just be trying to look for what makes him pass? If you gave me a book the size of a Bible and you want me to pass in 2 days, I'll be able to scan through and I may pass. But am I really in charge of that particular process? Have I really mastered the content?
Is it transformative, yes, in terms of
those are the questions we should ask ourselves. Indeed. Why is Tanzania still having the old system that we went through, the one up to Form 6? And yet,
and Uganda,
and we were competing with them.
But Uganda has been suffering as well. If you go,
they still have
no. They said they're running the same system, but we saw that their curriculum is being rejected abroad, and now they're saying it's a cake. It needs to be reviewed as well. It is a big issue.
But it's a big debate. In the sense that you see, is this system meant for Kenya, or are we trying to help a certain system because they are the ones who are funding the processes? Or are we trying to create something that is organic to our country, something that is relevant to the needs of Kenyans? Are we trying to give value for education?
Indeed.
You see, why do we go back to school? Because you want to acquire certain standards. I want to be like Martin, to be called Dr. Kirwa.
Yes.
And I don't want to be called Dr. Kirwa by name. I want to make a difference between me of today and me with a PhD.
Yeah.
Those are basic things that we must, and the process also is important. The process is important. That it's not just an E. Is this E out of my capacity? Have I stretched my internal limit? Such that I've exhausted all possibilities, and getting an E means I've tried my best? Or am I just getting an E as a formality to qualify to be an MCA or to have post-primary education? So these are some basics that we need to do by also inculcating our children the value of life itself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well,
before you go, for just a minute, have you heard that passion that is in Mheshimiwa Kirwa?
Today,
the passion that if he was to write a book, and he has even given the book a title, Fallen Standards.
I'm telling you.
I want you, seated where you are and where Martin is, to encourage this honorable gentleman, who is my in-law, to make sure that he can.
This is nepotism here.
To make sure that he can write a book that can be read. You know,
Falling Standards.
Why Kenya is failing is because we have brains that have not been listened to, brains that have not been heard. We need to be able to milk every information, every experience that experts like him, and when he's talking, he has even repeatedly said how old he is and that his grandchildren are in university. There is something that he knows that we don't, and there is something that we can never get to know until we go through some experience like what he has gone through. So I want you to kindly, as I also do that, and Martin and also my colleague, to kindly encourage Mheshimiwa Kirwa to get down and write that book. I have written mine. Now I am struggling with the title. He already has a title.
Your manuscript.
It's just downloading what he
I
has.
just need to look at his manuscript and I'll give it a title.
Oh, you give it a title.
So he's struggling.
He is looking for a consultancy.
Okay,
job. I know how this is the exchange. But you see, Martin has been encouraging Mheshimiwa as well. Yeah,
Yes.
on his
PhD
journey as well.
Yes.
So
be
we're almost there.
encouraged,
So
Mheshimiwa.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
soon enough it will be now the three of you with doctorate. And I don't know what Churchill Suba is doing about it as well.
Churchill
He'll
has
tell us
frozen,
more.
has frozen in time. He's still stuck where they were making the constitution. He's not reading
Yeah, but it's a good salutary effort that he's keeping. And Mheshimiwa, I want you inspired me as a young boy. I used to watch you when you were the agriculture minister, and when you spoke.
Yeah, thank you.
I used to wonder, what sort of rich seam of information and wisdom that is spewing out of you. I mean, there's such an authority. Yes, and for me to sit close to you today, I feel honored because you set the precedent, and the sort of leadership that we had in that caliber, in that stream of time, was top notch in terms of integrity, in terms of delivery. And so we want to thank you, and I celebrate you as well.
Thank you.
Right. So that book, we are eagerly waiting for it. Yes. Now that
I'll have to write it with Dr.
it's fire. It's in the public domain already. Your PhD is in the public domain. So pressure. But we take a short break. Still, when we come back, we want to look keenly on this as well. Even as the world is gravitating towards artificial intelligence, we have also Professor Bitameng Demo, who feels right now that the country is not really also at pass as far as the new developments is concerned. Here with our curricula in our universities, how compliant are we with the artificial intelligence? So people are just tinkering with the computer science curricula, putting smatterings of how artificial intelligence will be, but do we need an entire of course, curricula that is centered on that? Already African students now, they're enrolling online to what the United Arab Emirates has to offer as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. And still on that as well, has our curricula taken cognizance of the fact that the environmental social governance is here with us? That sustainability is key right now. And this is what also Professor, the former governor of Makueni, Kifuda Kibwana, was raising recently when he was, of course, talking about sustainability at St. Paul's University, and how our curriculum should also focus with our universities. We should focus with a curricula that is entirely centered on sustainability. And this is where Dr. Green also is going to tell us how that may be